Tens of billions of dollars. In 2004, you could have had any one of those concessions. This happened overnight. And you've got, I mean, B&K Petroleum out of Canada, you've got PG&E, the national oil company, you have ExxonMobil, Chevron, ConocoPhillips.
In the west of Poland, at its Nowe Sol concession, San Leon has been carrying out seismic tests. Part of the long process of research work still to be done before the gas starts flowing, if it ever does. Every 50 meters, the trucks make a small earthquake. The shape the vibrations come back in produces a map of what's underneath. The operations manager, Anita Horvath, assures us that disruption is kept to a minimum and buildings are not damaged.
We keep the safety distance from different buildings, and always at the building we do PPV measurement. We always measure, record the exact vibration that we cause there.
San Leon's vibrator truck routes crisscross with cables every 300 meters over some 160 square kilometers, connecting geophone devices that register the vibrations.
The backcoming energy that pushes the geophones up, and then we measure the signal through that cable that goes all the way back to the recording truck.
The recording truck sits in this field, controlling every vibration and registering its effects. Aware that in France there's been grassroots resistance to shale gas exploration, Anita is keen to show us that here people are welcoming them.
We have 3,000 parcels, and about 10 or 20 owners said that we cannot enter their land.
Village Mayor Tadeusz Tarbaj says he had no hesitation in letting San Leon on his farm.
If they find gas here, then conditions for people living in this municipality will improve. There'll be some industry, a company, maybe a big one, will be working here, and it'll create jobs.
Poland's government has a similar attitude. It sees shale gas as an opportunity to develop free from the shackles of Russian gas imports and coal, which still generates 95% of Poland's electricity. Junior Treasury Minister Mikołaj Budzanowski says it's the government's #1 priority and could transform both the Polish economy and the European energy mix.
To avoid energy crisis, we have to invest in our own indigenous extraction of oil and gas resources within the borders of the European Union. And gas share is one of these opportunities for the whole Europe.
What all the fuss is about is a rock that looks like this.
These are shales. These lines you see are the remains of graptolites, the living sea creatures that ended up in here.
The gas in Silurian shale comes from those organisms trapped in it when it formed more than 400 million years ago. There's a layer of the stuff around 3 kilometers below much of Poland. Created by the communist authorities in the 1970s and 80s, these huge geological archives became busy places again in the last 2 years as interest in Polish shale gas grew.
Lately, these archives have become valuable research assets for fossil fuels companies.
The only way to get the gas out of the rock, though, is through what's known as hydraulic fracturing or fracking. Water, chemicals and sand are pumped into wells at high pressure, causing the shale to crack and release the gas. This controversial technique has become widespread in the United States over the past 15 years. In Poland, they're just beginning. At Łebien in the north of the country, British-based Lane Energy, in cooperation with ConocoPhillips, drilled Poland's first well last year. Now they're getting ready to frack it. These reservoirs contain the vast quantities of water that are needed. Activist Marek Kryda brought us here. He's determined to spread the word about the dangers of shale gas development. What worries him most is what they plan to put into all the water.
We see here containers with very corrosive, very poisonous chemicals. Obviously, these chemicals are supposed to be added to water in the process of fracking.
No environmental impact assessment was required here, Marek says.
Chemicals are pumped into the ground, and we are not interested what is the environmental impact of these poisonous chemicals. I don't think it's right.
Unlike San Leon, Lane Energy are not keen to communicate right now, and they don't appreciate our snooping.
That's it. television can't come here, you know?
A team of inspectors from Poland's State Geological Institute show up, and they turn out to be even more evasive.
We do not have any plenipotentiary powers to make any comments whatsoever on what is happening here.
But you're here on official business, aren't you?
I'm not going to tell you whether I'm here on official business or not.
But I know you are.
Well, that's just grand that you know that. You're very clever. But we're just here for, you know, lovely weather, isn't it?
Sure, but those chemicals over there are dangerous.
Marek is appalled by the lack of transparency.
This kind of inspection should give information to the public, what they are finding, what they are checking, what is the situation with this kind of drilling sites. We don't have this information.
Aside from the environmental impact, Marek is concerned about the exploitation of local people.
How you doing? This is basically Texas now, isn't it?
Not quite. I guess the government will get rich and the gas extraction companies, they will for sure, but not us.
In the US, gas has turned some farmers into so-called shaleionaires who've leased their land to developers for big bucks. But in Poland, what's underground belongs to the state, not the landowner. Here at Łebien, illusions of local jobs and benefits have faded. But unlike in France or the US, that hasn't translated into protests.
Oh, it doesn't really bother me, though, you know. It's not very noisy. Sometimes they block the road. That's a bit annoying.
Marek thinks they're ill-informed about the dangers.
The debates are not happening. These debates are replaced by propaganda saying that anybody who is against shale gas in Poland is in favor of Russian interests in Poland.
Marek travels to Warsaw to try to stimulate that debate. He's invited to speak at a screening of the documentary Gasland. This Oscar-nominated movie chronicles alarming cases where Americans' water was apparently polluted by shale gas extraction.
Or fracking. Whoa, Jesus Christ. That's the best I've done.
Activists have been organising these screenings with increasing regularity in a bid to counter the almost wholly positive coverage of shale gas in the Polish media. They're not always so poorly attended, and reactions range from scepticism to galvanisation.
So what can we do? Because after that, I'm worried that I won't be able to sleep.
Well, you know, if what you want is to hear something that'll reassure you and let you sleep and forget about this issue tomorrow, I'd rather you didn't sleep.
Well, thanks a bunch, but seriously.
Yes, seriously, then you might think of something to do. In Poland, there's no grassroots pressure. Environmental organizations are in crisis. They're totally dependent on state grants.
Back in the San Leon office, we asked John Bugenhagen what he thinks of the movie.
I think it's bullshit.
He explains why. Fracking, he says, takes place hundreds of meters and various geological layers below any water sources.
So, you know, people are acting like once we break this rock, we've opened up thousands of meters of rock, where in reality we've only fractured, you know, hundreds of meters of rock. And at 3,000 meters depth, you know, I still struggle with how that's all going to come to the surface here.
Such arguments do not impress Marek Kryda.
If there will be a report proving that fracking is safe, it will be good to read it and consider it. But if somebody is saying, let's say in 5 minutes, explaining that certain attitude is bad, you cannot call this kind of attitude differently than propaganda.
No such report yet exists. As more wells are drilled and shale gas development promises to transform not just the Polish economy but also the Polish landscape, the coming months may see the excitement tempered by some resistance.
Well, that's it for this edition of Planet Hope. Thank you so much for watching. You'll be able to watch this edition again online by logging onto france24.com. That's france24.com. Bye-bye.
Not so rare after all. Can Japan's deep-sea discovery challenge China's monopoly over the rare earths we need for smartphones, hybrid cars and wind energy turbines? Join us for Environment to find out.
Don't miss Environment, Saturday 11:40 a.m. Paris time on France 24.